Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Gunatito Aksharam Brahma Bhagavan Purushottamaha Jano Janandidam Satyam Uchyate Bhavabandhanat Om Shri Swaminarayanaya Namo Namaha Shri Ghansham Maharajaya Namaha Shri Lakshmi Narayanaya Namaha Shri Radha Krishnaya Namaha Shri Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to SWAMINARAYANSPirituality.com. This is Sachin Karnik. Today is the 12th of September 2023. First, I'd like to offer my prostrations to all the incarnations of God, to the Supreme Paramatma, and to all the great sages, past, present, and future, for their blessings in this contemplation on Shri Vachanamrutam, Garada Pratham, number 1. With that prarthana and bhav, we are continuing our exploration about the second question asked in the first Vachanamrut by a householder devotee to Shriji Maharaj. The householder's devotee, just as a quick recap, his name is Govardhan Bhai. He was a great householder devotee, very devout, devoted, dedicated, very high level in spiritual realization. And he has asked a question in Gujarati, and I will always translate it for you. Anytime Gujarati, Hindi, English, Hindi or any foreign language is used, I'll make sure that the proper translation to my best of my ability is given to you. So the question that was asked is as follows: Jene Bhagwan ni Maya kahe te tenu roop sucha. What is the form of the Maya of God? So throughout Vachanamrut, you will find that Maya is described as a power of God. Bhagwan meaning Paramatma, Bhagwan, Purushottam Bhagwan. Bhagwan Sri Krishna specifically is mentioned throughout Vachanamrut. Although God is only one, but Maharaj, as a devotee, his Ishta Devata was Bhagwan Sri Krishna. And then there is, of course, the metaphysics about Krishna Tattva, that there is Krishna in Golok, Krishna beyond Akshara Brahma, ye jo sab baat hai, Krishna, the incarnations here. Those are metaphysics. We are not going to go into that right now. And we would need to actually cover quite a bit of the Vaishnav literature to understand that, and then the connections with the Shaiva literature. Those are all metaphysical points, right? We have talked a bit about it, but here the question is about the Maya of God. Please remember, to understand the question, to understand it, and then the answer also, it is understood in multiple ways. One is in very straightforward, easy to understand, simple kind of understanding is there, which is also necessary in life. That is one thing. Then there is the more elaborate, interconnected understanding with all the other scriptures in the Sanatana Dharma, which Vachanamrut has an extract of all of that in there. That's the second type of interconnection. The third type of interconnection is the metaphysical interconnection, because this is metaphysics. It is beyond our senses. The concept of Maya, where did it come from, the history of it, the thousands of years of evolution, the different sampradayas, that is a historical and metaphysical understanding. And then there is also the psychological, psychoneurological understanding of this. To understand it from modern psychology, modern neuroscience, modern brain science, we can understand the question and the answer from that perspective. Also, sociological, neurological, psychological types of understanding in studies of consciousness, etc. And so all of these are all connected together. So we can see how vast it is. There's no way to connect, to really cover all of it in one shot. We have to go through it slowly, carefully, systematically. And please remember, there is also the questions and answers in Vachanamrut in terms of sadhana. For sadhak, who is Vachanamrut for? Vachanamrut is for those who are intent on realizing the highest truth. Right? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Those who want realization of God, for them, it is a guideline, it is a description of how to overcome the internal ignorance, internal obstacles. This is called samvad. So the word samvad in Sanskrit means there's an enlightened being who is asked questions by others, or that person is bringing about some topics, and that knowledge is given, that wisdom is given, that path is given. That is called samvad. In the Bhagavad Gita also, The Krishna and Arjun's conversation is called Samvad. Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Yoga Shastre, right? So that is called Samvad. Now, along these lines, so that's kind of some of the background. Here, Govardhan Bhai is asking a very significant, very practical question, and the answer is extremely practical. We've already done about 3 or 4 hours of recording on this. I'm going to cover this in some areas that we have not talked about so far. So the answer to this question about what is the form of Maya, what is God's Maya, what is the Roop meaning, how can we understand the structure of it? So Shriji Maharaj answers it this way. In Gujarati he says the following. Pachi Shriji Maharaj bole je Bhagwan no bhakta hoy tene Bhagwan ni murti nu dhyan karta je padarth adu avine avran kare tene Maya kahiye. I'll translate it for you. Just a quick recap. He's always talking about devotees. A devotee of God. Bhagwan no bhakta means one who is a devotee, who is doing bhakti, who is doing sadhana bhakti. See, the 9 forms of devotion are sadhana bhakti, shravanam, kirtanam, vishnu, smaranam, padasevanam, archanam, vandanam, dasyam, sakhyam, atma nivedanam. This is called navavidha bhakti, navadha bhakti, when you combine the 2 words. So one who is performing these practices again and again, and in doing so, the individual has progressed to the point where they are doing dhyan of the murti. Bhagwan ki jo murti hai, uska dhyan karte. Because the focus is on murti. All the time this word comes inside. It is a sakar upasana. It is, Maharaj has talked about the vyapak swarup. Bhagwan sarva vyapak hai. He has mentioned that in many places in Vachanamrut, once you are enlightened, you are able to actually see that God is present everywhere. Right now we can have bhavana. It is a bhavatmak vision that Bhagwan is everywhere. But sakshatkar ki sthiti mein ishavasya midam sarvam yat kinchit jagatam jagat, this Upanishad is saying, that is realized state. When we enlighten into that, realize that, Gnyan Samadhi, when we're in that awakened state, completely awakened state, then God is everywhere. God is everywhere even right now. Right? So it is a transition from the bound state of Maya into state beyond Maya. This is the transition. So Maharaj is answering this question where he says, the one who is a devotee of God, and when that individual, when that bhakta is performing dhyan, is doing dhyan of the murti of God, Bhagvat murti, Bhagwan ni murti no dhyan karta meaning performing the dhyan activity. Right? Now, how this is done, in which way it is done, there's quite a bit involved in this. And then he says the answer is whatever comes in between. This is where the neuropsychological stuff comes into the picture. When we are trying to concentrate and focus on the image of God, on the form of God, as the only reality, that murti is real, everything else is temporary, in flux, in change, unreal ultimately. But Bhagwan ki murti, God's form is real. This is the point Maharaj is making here. So he says that whatever objects, thoughts, memories, images, whatever comes inside the mental world that causes an obstruction in this meditation, this is called avran. He says, Adu avina, Adu means it comes as an obstruction. It causes a blockage in the dhyan. Those obstructions are called Maya. That's a definition. It's a very practical and tremendous definition. But remember one thing. It is not that somebody can just jump into this dhyan like that. You can try, but there is some prep work required, obviously. We're going to talk about that a bit today. See, in Vachanamrut Garada Pratham 25, there are 2 paths shown there. One is path of Bhakti Yoga and the path of Ashtanga Yoga is the other one. Right? So in Bhakti Yoga, one is actually, if you're staying in 9 forms of devotion, that kind of cultivation is there, saintliness is there, there's no rag, dvesh, aham, mamatva, that distortion is out, addictions and all those, you've bypassed all that. Let's just say you've bypassed all that stuff, right? which Shikshapatri also talks about this progression up to the point where a person bypasses all, one progresses out of all that thing and reaches the state of a devotee. You have a human body from Pashu to Manusha, from Manusha to Bhakta, from Bhakta to Mukta. This is the transition in Shikshapatri, and we see the same transition in the Gita. We see the same transition in all of the teachings of all the great sages of the world. But in Shikshapatri, it is a very, very clear transition in the 212 verses. So the point is assuming that a person is a Bhakta. Now, who is even considered as a Bhakta? So the word Bhakta means what? A devotee who has bhakti. Right? So bhakti is what? What is bhakti? Let's just be very clear. Bhakti is love. Bhakti is sneha. The definition of bhakti in Shikshapatri, and I'm going to try to keep my references mostly centered around the Swaminarayan scriptures because that's what this is about. There's a lot of connections with lot of other scriptures, on this point. It's very interesting. Bhakti is love. It is the love between Radha and Krishna. So there is a scripture in Swaminarayan Sampradaya called Bhakti Nidhi. Ab ye kya hai? Something new, interesting comes up, I'm sure, every time. Bhakti Nidhi is written by Nishkulanand Swami. Nishkulanand Swami ko Bhagwan ka Ashirvad tha, and he would sit in, there's a place actually, I can show you the videos also, where he wrote all this in Gujarati. So Bhakti Nidhi is the last scripture he wrote out of the 23 scriptures he wrote. Nishkulanand Swami was a Paramahansa of Shriji Maharaj. और उनको ऐसी दिव्य दृष्टि हो गई थी, और he would, it was the tremendous poetry and writing came out. This happens when a person gets evolved spiritually. You cannot hold that wisdom inside. It has to be let out. It's not something that a person can hold inside anymore. That's another whole different subject altogether. But Nishkulanand Swami was in that frame of mind where he's brimming with realization. So the first grantha he wrote, grantha meaning the first scripture, is called Yam Danda. Yam Danda kya hai? वो क्या है? वो एक उनको समाधि में वो गए थे, and he can see the narka lokas. When people have done heinous activities, in the Gita also this is written, that this Kam, Krodh, Loph is a doorway into the hellish states of mind, hellish regions. What happens? I won't go into all that description. He has described that in detail in a scripture called Yam Danda. Yam Danda is the first scripture written in Swaminarayan Sampradaya, written by Nishkulanand Swami in the time of Maharaj himself. Maharaj gave him Ashirvad and blessings that you start writing. And, he says, I'm blessing you so that even if you just make a line, it will turn into a verse. It is like that. So because he was not trained in any of that thing. It had come naturally from within. And just as a quick point of reference, there are two big scriptures Nishkulanand Swami has written. One is called Nishkulananda Kavya. Isme 22 scriptures hai. I think 22 or 23. The first one is this Yam Dand. The last one is Bhakti Nidhi. Bhakti Nidhi Shastra, it is all about love. It is the purity, the absoluteness of love between Shri Radhika Ji, Shri Radha Rani and Bhagwan Sri Krishna Paramatma. इनके विषय जो प्रेम तत्व जो है ना, this is written in this Bhakti Nidhi. And that is the most extraordinary thing actually. There is nothing greater than bhakti as per Sajanand Swami, as per Shriji Maharaj. And that is very much in line with all the Vaishnava Acharyas. If you look at the ISKCON group today, if you look at Gaudiya Vaishnava, you see the scriptures that they have. Fantastic, right? Bhakti Rasamrut Sindhu, bahut adbhut hai. Sanatan Goswami, the different Goswamis have written these scriptures. And by the way, what is meant by Goswami? The word Goswami means one who has mastered the senses. Go meaning senses. So just as a quick reference there. So the point is that bhakti is emphasized. You will see in Maharaj's answer here, Bhagwan no bhakta. The devotee. So we need to come to that point. I've talked about this before in some of the previous recordings. To get to that point of devotion. Now, there is a difference between an intellectual study of scriptures versus an individual who is studying them out of devotion. It's very different. Like if you have a person who is a Christian, is holding the Christian Bible and is devoted to God, devoted to Christ, is seeing it as a sacred scripture. The word sacred. Somebody could just be a scholar, historical scholar. That's not sacred for that person necessarily. He's just studying this, and he's going to teach a course on Christianity or on Judaism or something like that. You can also teach a course on this Vachanamrut, and it's possible, it can be done. Why not? You see? But that doesn't mean that the person is holding it as sacred. They could be. Maybe, yes, there are scholars of that type. So the point here is that when we are aiming to realize God, the words of the great sages like Shriji Maharaj and great gurus and etc., these are held as sacred because they are time tested, and not only that, they resonate. There's a resonance inside. That is your direct resonance. Personal resonance is everything more than what anybody else has said as a secondary knowledge. Maharaj himself is talking about this direct first personal resonance about himself. He says in Gujarati, he says, I have what I have realized by my own anubhav, I'm giving you. In Gujarati he said, "Me anubhave kareli siddha baat chhe, pratyaksh detail baat chhe." These are old Gujarati. Shankaracharya ji uses the word aparoksha anubhuti. It means direct. J. Krishnamurti uses this language also. It is your direct awareness, pathless path idea. That is also in this sentence, believe it or not. That is also embedded in this answer. It's if you really open this thing, it is just, isme bahut chamatkar hai. Amazing things are there. So let's go into it carefully. Now remember, so we're talking about, this is the background. We're talking about the bhakta. भगवान का भक्त. अभी भक्ति क्या है? As per Garada Pratham 25, bhakti is where one directly starts in dhyan. So dhyan meaning what? There are 8 steps in Ashtanga Yoga. Let's be clear about this point. Patanjali Yoga Sutra are 200 Yoga Sutras. Now I'm going to go into the detail of this, right? So we're going to go through this. I'm going to explain each of the 8 limbs, what they are, what exactly is involved in that, and why bhakti is directly starting in dhyan. This is very, very interesting. So Patanjali Yoga Sutras, a foundational text in classical yoga philosophy, lays out this path of 8, this 8-fold path in detail. The first step, and again it's called anga. This word step is not really the best translation. The anga meaning limb. There are 8 limbs of one body. So it's not steps really, but they're limbs, but we'll say steps for ease of understanding. Let's be clear. Let's be very clear how powerful this sentence is of Maharaj when we really see the background. So Maharaj is talking about dhyan, but before we get to that, what is the first step? Yam. Y-A-M-A. It is sometimes translated as moral restraints, ethical guidelines to practice towards others. If one wants to realize God, these 6 steps are there in Yam. So under Yam, there are 6 steps. What are they? Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, and Aparigraha. I'm sorry, 5, not 6. 5 points are there. 5 qualities the sadhak has to have to master Yama. See this point. What is Ahimsa? What is Ahimsa? Ahimsa is of 3 types: mental, physical, verbal. Right? All 3. One who is living in ahimsa at all 3 types of ahimsa are fully blossomed inside, not partially. Then that is the mastery of ahimsa in yama. The second is satyam. You know how we say transparency. Very big, very important quality. To speak truth, to think truth, to be transparent, to not create a contradiction and a kind of an internal deception. This is, most humanity is trapped in that. They're saying one thing, thinking something else. Saying one thing, thinking something else, doing something else altogether. So they're not in Satyam. As soon as you don't have that, you cannot realize God. Big X. Finish right there. Forget, it doesn't matter how many scriptures somebody knows or how much sadhana anybody does. If there is a mistake made in any of these 5, The pathway to realize, even this dhyan that Maharaj is talking about here, is not going to happen. होगा ही नहीं. But if you are a pure devotee, or Bhagwan ke, if a person is in Navda Bhakti and has devotion with genuine feeling, genuine bhavna, these qualities automatically come. You don't have to even think about them. That is the magic of bhakti. It is called magical bhakti. That's what Maharaj is saying here. He is talking about the fact that if you are a devotee and you are worshipping the Paramatma ka jo swarup hai, you're worshipping Bhagwan, and if the devotee is a real devotee, these qualities of ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha, I'm going to go through them, they will blossom automatically. The knowledge comes inside us. So it opens up from inside. Because the devotee recognizes that the obstructions that are inside, not speaking truth, stealing or taking things from others, these things are obstructions in bhakti. One recognizes that as Maya from the inside out. That is exactly what Shriji Maharaj is saying. Wow. That is a tremendous thing, actually, and to be in resonance with this understanding, with this bhav, is what bhakti is all about. Bhakti, why Maharaj said in Garada Pratham 25 that bhakti bypasses these 6 steps and goes straight into dhyan, 5 steps and goes into dhyan. Why? Because when a devotee is in loving relationship with the Lord, with God, there is rasa, there is joy, there is enjoyment of that rasa, and there is, by krupa, by grace of God, there is awareness inside the bhakta's mind, infused by God, of all of the deficiencies, and the person can directly see what are the deficiencies and de-identify with them and stay in bhakti. That is why bhakti is a bypass to all of this. Amazing. That itself is tremendous. See the power of Vachanamrut. But isme kya hai abhi, how, this is one of those things that it is when we are trying to realize God, these things become relevant. That's why Govardhan Bhai is asking this question, because he's a true devotee. He wants to realize God. That's why he's asking the question of Maya. All right, let's go further in this. So under Yam there is ahimsa, the three types of ahimsa. Satyam. One point about Satya in Shikshapatri, Maharaj has mentioned about what to speak. He says, do not speak, even if it is truth. You don't need to speak truth that is going to cause further damage to already damaged situation. It's not necessary. Unless somebody asks, say something about it and move on. Don't dwell on this is written in Shikshapatri also. Okay, so Satyam, but the intention inside, one should not lie to oneself. If you lie to yourself, what realization is going to happen? Nothing is going to happen. There is a contradiction of energy and thoughts and memories and all the problems that are discussed in psychology, which we won't go into right now. Endless number of these things are described in professional psychology because of all the contradiction inside. But Satyam, the quality of Satyam, which is under Yama, as Patanjali has mentioned, it's a pure flow of Shakti, of energy. Right? So this is Satyam. The third quality is asteya. Asteya means do not steal. In Shikshapatri mein bhi likha hai, don't take a flower from anybody's garden without the permission of that owner. Don't steal anything. When we steal something, again we create this disturbance inside. We create a bad karma with somebody else. Why steal? Don't steal anything. This is the third quality. Fourth quality is brahmacharya. Chastity, moderation in all things, including senses. So brahmacharya mein kya hai? Again, this is another very intricate subject. In Vachanamrut, this is described as 2 different paths, brahmacharya ka. If I'm not mistaken, it's Garada Madhya number 20. If I'm not mistaken. There are 2 paths about brahmacharya. One is the path of Shukdev Ji. Pure, that is called Urdhvareta Naishtik Brahmacharya. in the male body and in the female body also, it is where the sexual essences are sublimated. And they're sublimated, transformed into ojas. But particularly in the male body, the semen is transmuted into ojas shakti, and it is not discharged from the body. That is called urdhvareta or naishtik. Naishtik vrat isko kehte hain. It is called bruhad vrat. Isko bruhad vrat bhi kehte hain. Bruhad means it is the most difficult, extremely, extraordinarily difficult sadhana. ठीक है? And it is glorious. बड़े बड़े अभी भी संत है स्वामीनारायण संप्रदाय में और अलग और outside that संप्रदाय also, those who are real brahmacharis, उनकी उसमें क्या है that allows for, it is the fuel for continuous contemplation, akhand vritti. It is a fuel. It is the shakti for Brahma Vidya, for Brahmic consciousness. But now remember, there's another path. Okay, so, and there's a lot to be said about that, but that is covered in this yam only, in this very first step. The other path is of the householder path, like Raja Janak. Abhi isme kya hai? This is very interesting. Raja Janak had children. Their grahasthas have children. There are, even during the time of Maharaj, devotees like Govardhan Bhai, Dada Khachar, so many individuals are grahasthas. They have children, they have wives, they have ghar, sansar, they have their jobs that they're doing, they have their farms that they're running, whatever they're doing at that time. These are householder devotees. So what Maharaj has mentioned there is that yes, even the great devotee like Parvat Bhai, जिसको त्रिकाल में भगवान का साक्षात्कार था, Parvat Bhai was a farmer, great devotee, householder. He used to sit in the back of the sabha. Satsang is going on. He's sitting all the way in the back. Nobody knows, who he is like this, and he is absorbed and lost in realization. The Maharaj mentioned that he's an enlightened being, and he had some 8 or 9 children. Now, how do you explain this? That Parvat Bhai, Govardhan Bhai. Even there's actually an incident. I'll just, since it's coming to my mind, I'll just one thing after. When we start this subject, it is like 50 things are present all at one time. There's a very interesting incident about this brahmacharya point. I want to cover this. One time, Maharaj is sitting somewhere. Maybe it's in Garada or somewhere. I don't know. And he asks Muktanand Swami and Brahmanand Swami, बहुत बड़े परमहंस थे. He says to them, where did I come from? Which village did I just come from? He says, can you see that? Are you able to see where I came from? So they said, Maharaj, no, we have not seen that. So he said, you still have some gunas of, some influence of Maya is still there. He says, the really enlightened people, you guys are great. And they were liberated, of course. But it's just one of those things. Where Maharaj said this Govardhan Bhai and Parvat Bhai, he says, they can see where I'm going. They can just close their eyes and see everything. So then those two saints said, Brahmanand Swami, Muktanand Swami, Maharaj, we have not become satsangi like that. Iska meaning kya hai? That in one sense, you are in the sansar. You have children, you have money, you have activities that are going on. But what Shriji Maharaj mentioned in Vartal 20 also, that mastery of Sankhya and Yoga that Janak Raja had. Sankhya and Yoga means what? That activity is done, but I'm not performing any activity. And there is natural connection with God while performing all activity. That connection is not broken at all. That is, but the activity of the senses is different. So Shukdev ji and the Urdhvareta Brahmachari, like Maharaj ke sevak the. Mool ji Brahmachari, unka naam tha. Unki murti bhi rakhi hai Sarangpur Mandir mein. Shastri ji Maharaj. So isme kya hai? Mool ji Brahmachari was a pure Naishtik Brahmachari. And there were many like him. The age of point in Naishtik Brahmacharya, it is a path where there is no fragmentation of energy, sex energy at all. It is completely sublimated towards Paramatma, like Vivekanand Swami. So what happens in this, there are powers that develop. Intellectual powers, mental powers, memory powers, siddhis, all those kinds of things can potentially happen. And they do happen. Like Vivekananda Swami had this photographic memory. This is called Medha Nadi. Isko kya kehte? Medha Nadi. Medha means this tremendously awakened intelligence. It is a type of nadi. So we have these different nadis inside, the spiritual nerves. So there's something called Medha Nadi. That Medha Nadi opens in Urdhvareta Brahmacharya. Aisa hota hai. Definitely, it can happen. Right? And you will notice that the sandals that are worn by the brahmacharis, they're wooden sandals. There's a reason behind they wear those wooden. Why is that? Because that between the thumb and the toe next to the thumb, I mean the next to the big toe, and then the toe next to the big toe, there's a gap between there, and that's where that hook is for the wooden sandal. So a nerve is pushed on that, and learning to walk with the wooden sandals, and this is called chakdi in Gujarati. They're called chakdi. Yeah, these are the wooden sandals they're called. Learning to walk with that helps tremendously in Urdhvareta Brahmacharya. That is why you will see all the Swaminarayan sadhus, they wear wooden sandals. They have to learn to walk with those sandals. And of course, in cold weather and everything, they probably have just other kinds of shoes. They have, without animal skin and all that. They have special, but they mostly walk with those wooden sandals. Maharaj himself used to walk with those sandals. And you would see the marks on his feet, from the constant rubbing of that. What is the purpose of that? To keep the semen sublimated. It is a very intricate and very, very difficult sadhana. These sadhanas are discussed in Vachanamrut also. They're discussed in Dharmamrut also. They are part of this Ashtang Yoga. This Ashtang Yoga talks about this also. People may not know that. So in the very first step of Brahmacharya, this is important. And this is difficult because to sublimate the energies from inside, is a very tricky thing. And this is where it goes. Now, for most people, that is not possible. Most people are grahastha-ashrami, like Janaka Raja, etc. This is not going to happen, right? So there's another path, and that path is of Sankhya. The Sankhya path is where an individual sees the world of names and forms and the activities of the body, but in the meditation, in absorption in God through bhakti, considers that the body and its activity is on one side, and the devotional connection is on the other side. So the body and its activity can, just like you're eating food or urinating, defecating, they're doing this. Similarly, this bodily activity is going on. That's all. Nothing other than that. It is just a physical activity. There's no mind involved in it. And this is very interesting. Very interesting. If mind is not involved, then what you basically have is just the physical body doing its function. Just like you're blinking your eyes, you're moving your head, things like this, right? This is all physical activity. So in Vartal 11, Vachanamrut, this is also described. In Vartal 11, Maharaj kehte hai, in Gujarati, he says the 14 indriyas, meaning the 5 sense organs, the 5 action organs, and the 4 antakaran. Sometimes it is described as 14 indriyas. It's 10 indriyas and 4 antakaran. The antakaran has 4 parts. He says that enlightened beings don't consider themselves as that. But what we call the mind-body complex. The mind-body complex is there. It is maintained. It is a tool. It is functioning in its way. The activity of it continues. All the activity of the body continues. But the difference with brahmacharya is that when the impulse to engage in a sexual, like the sexual tension is there, just like how you have tension to urinate or defecate or anything like that, that tension is relieved. in the male body. It maybe something similar might be happening in the female body, but it is a little different subject maybe, because the physiology is a bit different, and so it has a little different mechanism behind it. Because in as far as I know, in the female body, there's a need for like an emotional connection, to experience some of the sexual enjoyments and things like that. So anyway, that's a different subject. But I'm talking about the male body right now. In female body also, there's also brahmacharya inside the female body too. It's the same energy, it's just expressed that way. So interestingly enough, in the male body who is following the path of Janaka Raja, path of the householders, the activity continues. But the difference Shriji Maharaj has mentioned in Vachanamrut, Garada Madhya 20, or maybe it's Madhya 20, 19 or 20. I forgot the number exactly. But that's he says there's a difference. I'll tell you what the difference is. The difference is not in terms of the realization, but the difference is in terms of the powers that come from this conservation. The Shukdev Ji and others, that's from ancient times, but from 5,000 years back. But those who are real brahmacharis, they have all kinds of siddhis. They have all kinds of siddhis. They have all kinds of awakened shakti that where they can see the different lokas, they can see the different abodes, things like that. Even the householders can, you see. But the problem is the people on the householder side, once they engage in these activities, and if they engage in it where their mind and vasana is involved, they get stuck inside there. And then the problem on the other side, somebody trying to establish brahmacharya can wind up in a reaction or a suppression reaction. It will not sublimate, and winds up in tremendous suppression. One winds up having a problem of a strong, potent, hidden desire. That is also described in Vachanamrut. I think it's Garada Madhya 25. About the problem in that path. So the person may not be violating any rules, may have a lot of spiritual knowledge, but the Maharaj said in Gujarati, Antakaran ma tikhi vasna che. Tikhi vasna means spicy. Spicy meaning, spicy in the sense that, how you have a spice? It's like that the vasna is potent. But it is all suppressed and hidden inside. So the person is aware that is there, but they're not allowing the body, the mind to enjoy that. So what did Shriji Maharaj say in that? When the question was asked, what happens to such a person when the body goes away? What happens to such a person? The person winds up in Swarga Lokas. It's a very tremendous answer that such a sadhu is incarnated, it's not here on this planet, winds up in the heavenly regions to enjoy that vasana. God gives him the opportunity to enjoy. You want to enjoy this thing? Go enjoy that thing to a maximum level. वो स्वर्ग में क्या है? भोग भूमि है. Swarg is bhog bhumi. That's what it is. And time is kept away. So for long periods of time, without a degrading body, the vasanas can be enjoyed. And there's a part of Swarga Loka called Ayavrat Khanda. This is another more interesting point. This is written by Gopalanand Swami also. Ayavrat Khand is a part of the Swarga Loka. And in that Ayavrat Khand, there is nothing but this sexual enjoyment. That's it. Nothing else is there. It's only that. So God says, okay, you want this thing, and you're doing sadhana, and you're trying to realize, but you have this desire. This desire is there, and you want to fulfill. Okay, I'm going to give you what you want. See, Bhagwan ki krupa kaisi hoti hai? God always gives us what we want, sooner or later. Point comes where our desires do get fulfilled. This is a fact. It may not happen right away, but it does happen. But we also have to do sadhana, and if that's what we want, we're trying in that. But this is an interesting point. The point here is about a yogi, a bhakta, a devotee, a sadhu, tyagi sadhu, who is trying to get established in Naishtik Brahmacharya, but has this problem of internal vasana, tikhi vasana. Maharaj, what an expression. He says that then what happens? The person goes into this Vargaloka. Then Maharaj says that Bhakta who is in the Svargaloka, after enjoyment, tremendous amount of enjoyment, is reborn back into the sansar. But is born in the families where there's devotion, because all that devotional practice that is not lost. It will continue from that point. Like the Gita says, Yoga Bhrashta. It continues from that point. And that wisdom comes to firmly get established in Dharma, Jnana, Vairagya, Bhakti. This is the answer in Vachanamrut Garada Madhya 25. When Dharma, Jnana, Vairagya and Bhakti, when they are solidified completely, one is a liberated being. In a Grahastha path or in the Brahmacharya path. Remember, Naishtik Urdhvareta Brahmacharya, ye iska mahima kya hai? It is for several purposes. One is that the yogi is going to use that energy for seva, not for siddhis and all these things. Actually, in Shriji, in Vedaras, Maharaj is so clear, and I was just going through that entire prakaran within the last 2 weeks. It is so clear that if these siddhis come by dharana of the murti of Narayan, Bhagwan Narayan ki jo murti, Bhagwan Shankar ki murti jo Ishtadev hai, God is only one. Narayan and Shiva are considered one in Shikshapatri also. When we do dharana is what? It is actually the 6th step. Focused attention on a single point or object. It's the beginning of it leads to dhyan. So by dharana of Bhagwan Narayan, इसमें से 8 major siddhi आती है, 8 minor siddhi आती है. So these are 16 siddhis that are described. And actually there are many more than that. There are thousands. There are an endless number of siddhis are there, but these 16 are described in the Siddhi Prakaran in Vedaras. So Maharaj, after describing them, he tells the Paramahansas, if these siddhis are there, you discard them. Do not look at them even. Because they are standing with hands folded. Aisi baat hai. They said, the Paramahansa, if he wishes, like Ishita Siddhi, whatever you wish, it will happen. Sankalpa Siddhi, Trikal Darshan Siddhi. There are so many amazing things. And Maharaj explained that in the Murti of Narayan, Bhagwan Narayan, inside the Murti of Narayan, these are naturally present. This is in Vedaras. These Siddhis are naturally present. You see, so let's pull it back again. So in Ashtang, hold on. In Urdhvareta Naishtik Brahmacharya, these siddhis are definitely going to show up. But they are not to be looked at. If a person uses them, because I want to use them, yes, you will get them, you can use them, and then eventually what will happen, the deflection from upasana of Paramatma, Bhagwan ki jo upasana hai, that gets deflected into other things. And then Shriji Maharaj said that one can wind up back into the cycle of birth and death. This happens in this yogic path. In any yoga, in bhakti yoga also, these siddhis will show up. When you are doing dhyan dharana, when you are in that state, and there is, all the deficiencies are wiped out, then these siddhis prop up. Not only that, the vision of the divine abodes of God, the vision of the chakras, these things all pop up. But Shriji Maharaj has mentioned in Garada Vachanamrut, Garada Pratham number 49, a statement is there, if the 6 chakras appear in front of you, Shat Chakra, and if Golok, Vaikuntha, Dham, they appear in front of you, that is still not antardrishti. That is still external vision. Because that is still something that is deflection away from God, from Bhagvat Murti. Because the Murti meaning Sakar Paramatma. Dvibhuj, Sakar Paramatma, not physical male or female. Satchidananda Vigraha. It is Sakar Paramatma Kishor Murti. वो अक्षर धाम में जो स्वरूप है, अक्षरातीत, the way it is described in Vachanamrut, वो किशोर मूर्ति है. गोलोक में भी किशोर मूर्ति है. वैकुंठ श्वेत द्वीप में भी किशोर मूर्ति है. बद्रिकाश्रम में भी Those are all Bhagwan Narayan ke sab alag-alag dham hai, swarup hai. These are the ones that are described in the Shastra. There are millions of abodes which are not even described in our scriptures. Because that was not, a certain amount is only describable. Those are spiritual planets. The metaphysical subject, we won't go into that. But the interesting point is, in Vachanamrut Garada Madhya 13, Maharaj kya kehte, that the Akshar Dham is you. That is who you are. You are that Akshara Brahma. You are the Atma Tattva. You are the Brahma Tattva. And that Paramatma is the essence of the Atma Tattva. So where are we going to find God? Right where we are. Within us. We say within, but it is the essence of our being. This is in Vachanamrut you'll find this again and again and again and again. Gunatitanand Swami mentioned. He said कि Bhagwan or Bhagwan nu dham. In Gujarati he said Bhagwan and Bhagwan nu dham. The abodes of God and God. From external vision, it is infinitely beyond. We cannot imagine how much beyond it is. But from internal vision, antaradrashti thi, he said anu matra chetu nati. Actually, that is written in Sarangpur 10. I'm sorry, this reference. Sarangpur is a small village, and this is where this was spoken. So antardrishti is this internal path, internal awakening of these of all of these stages of eventually reaching dhyan. Because see, let's put it this way. Where is our dhyan? The ordinary person has dhyan in three things. One is, of course, the vishayas, the panch vishayas, the objects of the senses, to increase their stimuli. That is what people want. What do people want? Multi-million-dollar homes, big private jets, world tours, things like that. Expensive clothing, really high circle of friends, right? Of people who are well known in society, high class. Oh, I got my picture taken with Joe Biden, or I got my picture taken with Michael Jackson. People think that is something extraordinary. Shriji Maharaj has put a big X on this thing as absolute trash. He says, if you want those things, you'll never realize God. Kabhi bhi nahi. Hoga bhi nahi. The reason behind that is because you are stuck inside this material world. In Panchala, one Vachanamrut. Panchala is another small, tiny village. You know what Maharaj has mentioned over there? Maharaj has said, he used a language is really remarkable. He said, Lobh rakhi ne pan a lok na asakti mati chutu. Lobh meaning what? Parlok no rob. He says that there's much, billion times more happiness in the abode of God. Keep your attention on that. Why you bother with these things over here? In Vachanamrut, one of the biggest themes is to remove right from the root this running after the experiences in this material world. I'm telling you as it is. No dilution in this. As what Maharaj is saying. His point of view is never to get stuck over here. Because he says, I have come here to destroy the causal body. यही बात है कारण शरीर का नाश के लिए मेरा अवतार है. I'll read that to you sometime. There's a whole letter in Hindi that he himself has written to the Paramahansas कि मेरा अवतार इसीलिए हुआ है कारण शरीर के नाश के लिए. In Hindi this is written. So his mission, he comes with a mission to establish ekantika dharma, Dharma Gnan Vairagya Bhakti. Why? To take the Jivatma out of the cycle of birth and death. Not be stuck in this sansar. Look at the language in Vachanamrut. Vachanamrut mein kya language hai? The language is that you see how much oceanic water there is? That's how much mother's milk the Jivatma has drank. Lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Incredible. So again, we live in the world peacefully, happily with everybody. But from inside, ध्यान, भगवान की मूर्ति का ध्यान, भगवान की मूर्ति का आश्रय, भगवत स्वरूप में आसक्त होना. Asakti means to be deeply engrossed inside the murti, inside the form of God. It's an engrossment. An analogy that is given as if heterosexual man, this is Vachanamrut mein, this analogy. If heterosexual man has high Kam Vasna, prabal, tremendous Kam Vasna. His mind is connected to the sexual activity and to the women and all that, right? Isn't it so? The intensity, that intensity. Shriji Maharaj says that same intensity place in God. And you will realize God. Amazing. This is the power inside each human being. It is the transmutation of vasanas that is dhyan. Dhyan is never going to happen as long as these vasanas are pulling us in 50 different directions. No. That is why Patanjali is talking about, Patanjali wrote these yoga sutras. Yoga, Chitta, Vritti, Nirodha. This is all in Sanskrit. These are sutras. And he outlined this entire path of eightfold yoga, Ashtanga yoga. Because he's an awakened being. Maybe he's an incarnation, but he's an awakened being. And he is giving this to the individuals that you followed such a path to awaken, right? Difficult path, no doubt. Shriji Maharaj, what he has shown, Maharaj kehte that jump into bhakti. Because he has advocated, although he himself was an Ashtanga yogi. In the Himalayas, when he went to the Himalayas at the age of 11, he mastered Ashtanga yoga in 1 year. This is how the history goes. From Gopal Yogi. Gopal Yogi was his guru. He was a great master, and there were some other yogic masters also. So, as the young teenage boy, he is having a human body, so he is intent on keeping the sex energy intact. And there's a lot of history and description behind this. So he masters Ashtanga Yoga. But when he came into Gujarat, what he did teach yoga and this path of Ashtanga Yoga and Brahmacharya. But Shriji Maharaj has mentioned in Vachanamrut something very interesting about this Brahmacharya. He said that the upasana of God, if you don't have that upasana and you are an established Urdhvareta Brahmachari, he said in Gujarati, he said, jo Naishtik Urdhvareta Brahmachari hoy, અને ભગવાનની ઉપાસના ન હોય તો એનું કલ્યાણ થવું મહાકઠણ છે. Meaning what? Without the upasana of Paramatma, of Bhagwan, even if brahmacharya is 100% established, still the moksha, which is the goal of the brahmacharya, that is very, very difficult, may not happen. Mahakathan means extreme difficulty is there. He didn't say no, but he says it is extremely difficult to move into the state of moksha, even if you are Urdhvareta Brahmachari. But on the other side, if you have great upasana of Bhagwan, Bhagwan ka sampurna ashray hai, and you're not a Urdhvareta Brahmachari, but you are also not running after these vasanas. It's just bodily function, things like that are going on. Ek nari sada brahmachari, like Parvat Bhai, others. He had 9 kids, with his one wife, obviously. He's not an Urdhvareta Brahmachari. But his connection with Bhagwan is not broken. He's kept the body and its activity on one side, like Janaka Raja. And the other side, the continuous absorption in Bhagwan is there. You see, farming activity is going on. Bodily functions are going on. Iske saath, they're going on because the body has to be maintained. Just like there's pressure, sexual tension is there at some point. It is released. There's no other thought is given behind that. It is not out of vasanas. It is out of bodily function. That's a big distinction. But that distinction awakens within the mind of a devotee by the grace of God when the bhakta is absorbed inside the spiritual communion in upasana, in the grahastha ashram path. That distinction is awakened. Otherwise, the person cannot help but function through vasanas. That is why Parvat Bhai could have 9 children and his sthiti was gunatit sthiti. Guno se par nikal gaye the, even though he had 9 children. How is possible? Most people, you start getting into any kind of sexual activity, it is through vasanas. But it is possible to activate that. It is possible it's just a bodily function only. And a bodily experience. There is an experience, no doubt. But that experience is not further sought after. That experience is not further expanded. There is no karma even accumulated by that. And there is no intensification of the causal body or the sukshma sharira by that experience. And the same thing is true with eating food or seeing objects of the world or any of the 14 indriya kriya as per Vachanamrut, Vartal number 11. Amazing. Amazing. That's absolutely mind blowing. It's mind blowing even for me to even think about this. It's just, I don't know where it all comes from, but it is something beyond anybody's imagination. How this is possible, that to experience the Vishayas. See, in the Gita, there are verses in the Gita about this. In the Gita, भगवान कहते कर्म इंद्रियाणि संयम्य य आस्ते मनसा स्मरण इंद्रियार्थान विमूढ़ात्मा मिथ्याचारः स उच्यते. That is similar to this same thing about this internal vasanas being, strong vasanas. You may be relinquishing the objects from the outside, but your mind is actively thinking about them. Useless. That verse is there. And then and then also the verses there. Raga dvesha viyuktaistu vishyan indriyaischaran. Without raga and dvesha, you're interacting with all of the objects and all of the people and everything. What is this? It is enlightened. It is enlightened activity. It is enlightened interaction. It is what we will say gunatit sthiti ma rahine kriyao thai in Gujarati. You are living in the gunatit state and performing activity. And that is why this question of Govardhan Bhai is so relevant. It is relevant because he is a grahastha. He has businesses. He has whatever he's doing. I won't go into all the charitra. He's a householder, and he's a wealthy householder also. Govardhan Bhai Shet meaning he's an owner of some businesses and all that, and so many people are working underneath him. And he's asking out of humility what is Maya, how to understand Maya. See, it is Maya that needs to be understood and transmuted. The energies within Maya needs to be transmuted. Whether you take the Urdhvarita, Naishtik, Brahmacharya path, it is a sadhana. It is a means to an end. And the other path of householder life, it is a means to an end. What is the goal? The goal is the same. The goal is Narayan, Bhagavan, Bhagavat Sakshatkar. The goal is not different. Okay, so now having said all of this, let's go further a bit more into trying to move towards what is dhyan. So Patanjali Rishi has talked about aparigraha, the fifth quality. We just gave this little bit of a small exposition on brahmacharya. Again, massive subject. We can go into it for hours at a time. There's Vivekananda Swami, there's Aurobindo, there's Ramakrishna Paramahansa, there is also Swami Ram Tirth. Swami Ram Tirth used to call this semen as white blood. This is the actual words written in the Woods of God realizations. I have those downloaded. I'll show you. I had a friend in Tennessee who was a great student of Swami Ram Tirth. He introduced me years back. I didn't know anything about him. So these are called Woods of God realization. In the Woods of God realization, there are some 6 or 7 volumes of Swami Ram Tirth. In the 1800s, he was a great saint who came from India into the US. And he was a pure brahmachari, and he was like Maharaj, this 100% brahmacharya. And these are yogis, they are absolutely intent on conserving the semen because they considered that the loss of that as a deflection from the realization of the Atma and the Paramatma. But the beautiful thing is that Shriji Maharaj has had so many householder devotees, he showed another way to go about this. That is actually doable. Otherwise, nearly nobody can, maybe a handful of people have ever become successful in Ashtang Yoga or Urdhvarita Brahmacharya, right? But for the masses, another path is there, the goal is still the same. Anyway, having said this, the fifth quality is aparigraha. Let's talk about that a bit. And this is under Yam. So Yam has what? Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, and aparigraha. Aparigraha means non-greediness, non-accumulation, hoarding. Hoarding disorder. That is discussed here. Hoarding some people just like to store things. So they cannot throw anything away. It's totally useless. It's gone. It's meaningless. They cannot donate it. They cannot throw away. They're just holding on to things. This is a big deficiency in human condition. Why to hold on? The truth behind this is this sharir, this is a gift of God. Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji kya kehte? Durlabham trayame veta deva anugraha hetukam. Deva anugraha. by anugraha, by krupa, Bhagavan has given this human body manushyatvam, mumukshutvam, Mahapurush. So this body is a gift of God. We could consider that I'm something and this and that. Okay, how foolish, how ridiculous. Who are you? There's no you to think that I'm something. This is the biggest ajnan there is. So this quality of aparigraha has connection with this, what is called deha bhav, deha buddhi. Yes, body is a mechanism you have to take care relatively based on the world outside, no doubt. Keep it as healthy as possible. But the quality of non-possessiveness. See, a prime example of this, on the other side, the other extreme is addictions. The drug addictions and gambling addiction and sex addiction, shopping addiction. And this is nothing but possessiveness. Ahankar, taken at the extreme level of disease. It is a diseased ahankar. It's not even the normal ahankar. It is a sick ahankar. That's the sickness of addiction. It is parigraha, not aparigraha. That's what it is. But in people who are not addicted of their own usual frame, the fear is there. What if this is lost? What if this is lost? What if somebody takes something away from me? What if somebody steals something from me? What will happen to me? There's only one thing that's going to happen. Garada Ante number 30. This is all Vachanamrut only. Maharaj kehte, this body can turn to dust any time. Kaun kisi ka hai? Kaun kisi ka hi nahi hai. This is called Akhanda Vairagya. Garada Ante number 30. Maharaj said, I'm keeping 5 points of awareness. Akhanda Anusandhan is called in me. He's talking about himself. And the first one is, anytime, at any point, this body can be gone. And because of that constant realization, there is constant, unbroken vairagya. But people say, wait a minute, how can I live like that? In fact, that is living. In fact, that is your alive, Krishnamurti's language, vitality of death. That is the real vitality. One is really alive fully when 100% vairagya is there. And in 100% vairagya is there, whatever is needed for our food, clothing, survival, etc. Yes, that is there. But to keep running after the objects of the senses, thinking I will find happiness, to keep expanding them, that is massive ajnan. Bada ajnan hai. So aparigraha is a quality. Patanjali Rishi is saying is aparigraha. Keep things minimum. Don't try to possess. The possessiveness, the quality of possessiveness has to go. Which doesn't mean you just take your bank account and just, throw all the money away. It's not like that. You have to live meaningful in this world. But internally, there's realization that we are all together. Vasudeva Kutumbakam. There is a realization we are all interconnected together. Non-possessiveness, non-greediness. This is a realization. The hankering after objects and out of fear and small things people are attached to. Terrible limitations, contracted energy, as we say many times. This is aparigraha, right? Understand aparigraha. Now, these are the first 5. Now, the next step is niyama. Niyama has also 5 points. And these are practices to cultivate inner discipline. What are they? They are shaucha, santosha, tapas, svadhyaya, and ishwar pranidhan. Ishwar pranidhan. These are 5. Let's go into this. And by the way, all of these are connected. They automatically will come about if you are a devotee in doing dhyan. That's what Shriji Maharaj is saying. Then he explains Maya in that context. But let's see this. This is very, very interesting. So the personal practices are what? Shaucha, purity, cleanliness, shuddhi. Very, very relevant in life, right? Shuddhi means what? Let's think of it this way. First of all, our home environment. Our home environment should be clean. The cleanliness things should be organized as much as possible. I don't mean hyper perfectionism. There is always flexibility, but the cleanliness is very, very important. Some people don't clean their kitchen, don't clean their refrigerator, their clothes are scattered all over. No, even even Sadhguru, who is a big saint in the world, he talked about this. He says if you fold your clothes, if they're properly folded and stacked, there's a vibration with that. There's a certain aura in that. So this point about shaucha is cleanliness and purity. There are levels of this and stages of this also. One is, of course, the external cleanliness. It begins there. Then bodily cleanliness, sharirik shuddhi, taking 1 or 2 showers a day, keeping the body clean. It should be as clean, very good. Not like hyper cleaning and all that. I don't mean this disorders, but just cleanliness of the body. Then the next stage is cleanliness of the indriyas. That the shuddhikaran, indriya ka shuddhikaran. What does that mean exactly? That to see those objects, those things that do not bring contamination of the mind. Because the goal is dhyan. The goal is samadhi. But the goal is dhyan. Dhyan in what sense? That one wants to realize God. So the mind has to be kept pure. So whatever is coming through the senses we have to see that. It has to be purified. So all of that is part of purity, cleanliness. And then the antakarana shuddhi, that comes in a much greater stage of devotion, etc. This is called shaucha. Then the second quality is santosh. Santosh means contentment. The contentment, this is another difficult thing that people don't have. We're always looking for something more, something else, something that's jumping here, jumping there. Contentment with what is. Of course, keep progressing further, but that contentment is called santosha, purnakambha. Third quality is tapas, discipline and austerity. Certain amount of discipline, certain amount of tapasharya. This is all part of niyama. People do certain fasting, intermittent fasting. They do, all those kinds of things are done. That is called tapas. And energy is accumulated, punyam is accumulated in that. The fourth quality is svadhyay, self-study and contemplation. And that has to do with being able to go into the scriptures, to study them, to reflect upon them, to contemplate on them. This is called svadhyay. That is the fourth quality in niyama. And the fifth one is Ishwar Pranidhan, surrender to the divine or higher power. That's surrendering to God, everything at the feet of the Lord. That is called Ishwar Pranidhan. So we'll stop here for now because this is it will get too much actually. There's too much other stuff to cover. I want to just take a little break here just for a moment and then we'll continue in just a moment.